Heartland Season 19 has left fans heartbroken and speechless. Nobody expected that the story would take such a painful turn, and yet it did. Amy Fleming, the character who carried the heart and soul of the series for nearly 2 decades, meets a fate that nobody could have prepared for. Viewers who have watched her grow from a young girl into a strong woman, a mother, and a true horse whisperer are left asking the same questions. How could this happen? And why now? Today, we're going to look back at Amy's journey, the role she played in Heartland, and why her shocking death has shaken the series at its very core. Amy Fleming's story in Heartland began with tragedy, and that shaped everything that followed. In the very first season, we saw her lose her mother in a car accident. It was a painful introduction, but it also revealed the strength that Amy would carry throughout her life. She inherited her mother's gift of understanding horses in a way no one else could. This wasn't just a skill. It was a calling, something that defined who Amy was and made her stand apart from everyone else on the ranch. From that point on, she became the person everyone turned to when a horse was broken, troubled, or in pain. As the seasons moved forward, Amy wasn't just a horse trainer. She was the emotional anchor of the Fleming Bartlett family. Her bond with her grandfather Jack was unshakable, and together they carried the legacy of Heartland Ranch. Through challenges, financial struggles, and family disagreements, Amy always found a way to bring hope back to the table. She had the rare ability to heal not just animals, but also the people around her. When Ty Borden entered her life, that healing extended even further. Their love story quickly became one of the most cherished parts of Heartland. It wasn't just about romance. It was about 2 people finding strength in each other, weathering storms, and building a future grounded in trust and love. When Amy and Ty became parents, the story came full circle. She poured the same compassion into her daughter that her mother had once shown her. Fans watched her balance motherhood, work at the ranch, and her natural role as a guiding light for everyone in her family. She grew from a teenager struggling to understand her place in the world into a woman who carried wisdom, kindness, and courage. But what made Amy truly unforgettable was the quiet strength she carried. Unlike other characters who showed power through loud actions or bold moves, Amy's strength was in her calm, steady presence. She could take a frightened horse and soothe it with patience. She could listen to a family member in pain and remind them that no matter how hard life became, they were never alone. Through all 19 seasons, this quality made her more than just a main character. It made her the soul of Heartland. Her journey was never about being perfect. She faced mistakes, heartbreak, and loss. Ty's sudden death years earlier nearly broke her, but Amy rose from that grief, showing viewers the power of resilience. She didn't give up. She kept going for her daughter, for her family, and for the ranch that was the lifeblood of their legacy. This ability to rise above the worst life could throw at her is why her tragic ending in Season 19 feels like such a painful blow. Fans aren't just mourning a character, they're mourning the loss of the hope she represented. Amy Fleming was not only the face of Heartland, she was its heart. Every horse she healed, every lesson she taught, and every bond she built left a mark on viewers who followed her journey for nearly 20 years. And that's why her death has shaken the show so deeply. Losing Amy is more than just saying goodbye to a character. It's like losing the foundation of the story itself. As the 19th season of Heartland unfolded, there was something different in the air. Longtime viewers could feel it, even if they couldn't explain it at first. The story carried a weight, a quiet tension that seemed to grow with every episode. Amy Fleming was still doing what she did best, working with horses, guiding her family, and staying strong for those around her. But small moments hinted that something larger was coming. It was as if the writers were gently preparing the audience for a change none of us were ready to face. Throughout the season, Amy's bond with the ranch felt stronger than ever. She spoke about her mother more often, remembered her late husband Ty with a softer voice, and looked at her daughter with the kind of love that comes from someone who knows how fragile life can be. These little scenes, though touching, now feel like foreshadowing. They weren't just warm reminders of her journey. They were quiet farewells. Season 19 also pushed Amy into situations that tested her limits. There were new challenges at the ranch, unexpected risks with the horses, and conflicts that forced her to take on more than she ever had before. Yet, instead of resisting, Amy embraced them. She worked longer hours, she pushed herself harder, and she gave more of herself to the ranch and to her family. At times, it almost felt like she was trying to leave something behind, as if she was determined to make sure everything would be okay, even if she wasn't there to guide it. One of the most telling parts of the season was how often Amy reminded others of their strength. She would encourage her daughter to trust herself with the horses, urging her to step into her own place in the world. She leaned on Jack, her grandfather, in a way that felt deeper than before, cherishing every moment with him. With Lou, she spoke words that sounded less like advice and more like parting wisdom. Fans didn't realize it then, but these scenes were laying down breadcrumbs, preparing us for the heartbreak that would come in the finale. The cinematography even seemed to reflect this change. There were more lingering shots of Amy watching the sunset, more moments of her standing quietly in the fields, surrounded by the horses she loved. The silence in those scenes spoke louder than words. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm, the kind of silence that makes you hold your breath without knowing why. And while many fans believed that Amy had already endured her share of loss with Ty's death, Season 19 slowly reminded us that tragedy doesn't always strike just once. Life on Heartland Ranch has always been a blend of joy and hardship, of healing and heartbreak. Yet this time, the writers were leading us towards something final, something irreversible. Amy's story wasn't just continuing, it was reaching its most painful chapter. By the time the final episodes arrived, viewers could sense the shift. The atmosphere was heavy, the music softer, the tone of Amy's words more reflective. She was still strong, still filled with compassion, but there was a sense of closure hidden between her lines. It wasn't clear at first, but as the season built to its shocking ending, all those subtle hints fell into place. Season 19 was not just another chapter of Heartland. It was the season that prepared us, without us realizing, to say goodbye to the very heart of the show. The ending of Season 19 was not loud. It was not dramatic in the way television usually delivers shocks. It was quiet, almost too quiet. And that silence is what made it devastating. Amy Fleming, the woman who had survived so much, who had carried her family through heartbreak, met her end in a way that felt painfully human, sudden, unexpected, and irreversible. It happened on a day that seemed like any other at Heartland Ranch. The sky was clear, the horses restless, and Amy was doing what she always did, putting others before herself. She had been working with a horse that had been particularly troubled, a wild soul that only Amy had the patience to understand. In true Amy fashion, she wasn't afraid. She believed in the animal, believed she could heal it, just as she had done countless times before. But this time, something went wrong. The details are heartbreaking, not because they were exaggerated, but because they felt so real. A sudden movement, a misstep, a moment where instinct and trust clashed, and in that single instant, everything changed. Amy was thrown, and the accident was brutal. The ranch that had seen her grow up, laugh, love, and mourn now became the place where she took her last breath. What makes her death so painful for fans is that there was no warning, no drawn-out illness, no time to say goodbye. Amy's story ended the same way her mother's had, through tragedy that came without mercy. In many ways, it felt like history repeating itself, a cruel reminder that life, even in the beauty of the Heartland, is fragile and fleeting. The moments after the accident were some of the most emotional the show has ever delivered. Jack's face as he realized what had happened, Lou's cries of disbelief, and her daughter's silent, frozen shock. These images cut deeper than words ever could. For a show that has always been about healing, this was a wound that seemed impossible to mend. And yet, there was something hauntingly poetic about it. Amy had spent her life saving horses, giving them second chances, and teaching others to believe in the impossible. That her life ended in the very world she loved. The ranch, the animals, the family, felt tragically fitting. Heartland has never been about happy endings alone. It has always been about the balance of joy and sorrow, And Amy's death was the most powerful reminder of that truth. Fans were left shattered, not only because they lost a beloved character, but because they lost her so suddenly. There was no build-up to her final breath, no final words of wisdom to carry forward, just a sudden, aching silence that hung in the air long after the credits rolled. That silence told the audience what words could not. Amy Fleming, the heart of Heartland, was gone. When the credits rolled on season 19, fans were left in disbelief, asking the one question that always follows a character's death. Why? Why Amy Fleming, and why now, after 19 seasons of growth, love, and resilience? To many, it felt like tearing the very heart out of Heartland. But when we look closer, the reasons behind this choice become clearer, even if they remain painful to accept. Part of it lies in the story itself. Heartland has always been about life as it truly is, unpredictable, fragile, and filled with both beauty and heartbreak. From the beginning, the show never shied away from showing loss, whether it was Marion's sudden passing in season 1 or Ty's heartbreaking death years later. These moments weren't written to shock alone. They were written to remind viewers that healing is not a straight road, and that even in the most loving families, tragedy still finds its way in. Amy's death continues that truth. It is cruel, yes, but it is also real, and in that reality lies the very essence of what Heartland has always tried to show. There is also a symbolic weight to Amy's ending. For 19 seasons, she carried the torch of her mother's legacy, healing horses and healing people along the way. By ending her story in a moment so similar to her mother's, the show creates a haunting parallel. It is as if the Fleming women's lives are bound by both their gift and their fate. Some may call it unfair, but for others it ties the series together in a tragic circle, one that underlines the fragility of life and the price of compassion. Outside the story itself, there are often real-world reasons behind such choices. Sometimes actors step away, seeking new chapters in their personal or professional lives. Sometimes writers feel the need to close a character's arc, even one so beloved, to allow others to step forward. If Amy's death was written as a permanent exit, then it might be tied to changes behind the scenes that fans will never fully see. And while it's tempting to blame the writers for cruelty, often these decisions are less about shock and more about direction, reshaping the story for the future. Of course, the fan reaction has been explosive. Social media erupted with grief, anger, and disbelief. Many felt betrayed, arguing that Amy deserved peace after all she had endured. Others defended the decision, saying that her death, while painful, was true to the raw and honest spirit of Heartland. What unites both sides is the depth of emotion, proof of just how powerful Amy's journey has been. Viewers don't argue over characters they don't care about. The outrage, the heartbreak, and the tears are all evidence of the impact Amy left behind. Ultimately, Amy's death happened because Heartland has never been about perfect fairy tales. It has been about the messiness of life, about how families endure what feels unbearable, and how love leaves a mark that outlives loss. The writers may have closed Amy's story, but they have also ensured that her legacy will fuel every character moving forward. Her absence will not weaken Heartland. It will shape it, forcing the family and the audience to discover strength in the shadow of tragedy. Amy's ending wasn't written to destroy Heartland. It was written to remind us why it matters so deeply. The death of Amy Fleming was not just the loss of a single character. It was the collapse of the center that held Heartland together. For 19 seasons, Amy was the bridge between people and horses, between pain and healing, between despair and hope. With her gone, the entire future of Heartland looks uncertain, and every character is left to pick up pieces that may never fit the same way again. First, there is her daughter. Growing up without Ty was already a heavy burden, and now losing Amy feels unbearable. The show now faces the challenge of shaping a young girl who must grow up far sooner than she should. Will she inherit her mother's gift with horses? Will she step into Amy's shoes and carry on the family legacy? Or will the weight of expectation break her? The loss of Amy will force her daughter to redefine who she is, not just as part of the Fleming family, but as an individual trying to survive without the guiding light of her mother. Then, there is Jack. He has already endured more than any man should, losing Marion, guiding Amy through her grief, and carrying the ranch through crisis after crisis. Amy's death will cut deeper than any wound before. She wasn't just his granddaughter. She was his partner in keeping Heartland alive. Without her, Jack must face the painful question of whether the ranch can survive another generation of loss. Will he find the strength to keep going, or will the weight finally crush even him? Lou, too, is forever changed. She has always been the practical one, balancing the ranch's future with her own ambitions. But Amy's death will strip away her sense of certainty. The advice, the wisdom, the emotional grounding that Amy provided is gone. Lou will now be forced into a role she may not feel ready for. Not just the head of the family, but also the emotional glue that Amy once embodied. It will test her in ways she has never been tested before. The horses themselves, central to the story as much as the people, will also feel the absence. Amy had a way of reaching them that no one else could replicate. Without her, the ranch may lose its purpose. The family may still try to heal horses, but the magic, the unspoken bond, was Amy's alone. This gap will challenge the characters to redefine what Heartland means, and whether it can continue without the person who gave it life. For the series as a whole, Amy's death creates a shift that cannot be undone. Season 20, if it comes, will not be about continuing as before. It will be about survival. It will be about finding new meaning in a world without Amy Fleming. Every storyline will now orbit around the void she leaves behind, and every choice the characters make will be shaped by her absence. This is what makes the future of Heartland both terrifying and fascinating. On one hand, fans wonder if the show can even survive without Amy. On the other hand, the writers have opened a path to explore grief, resilience, and legacy in an even deeper way than before. Will the ranch thrive in her memory, or crumble without her touch? That question alone sets the stage for a future filled with uncertainty, heartbreak, and perhaps renewal. Amy may be gone, but her absence will echo through every frame of Heartland's future. Her death doesn't just close a chapter, it rewrites the story for everyone left standing. Amy Fleming's death is not just the end of a character, it is the end of an era. For 19 seasons, she stood as the heartbeat of Heartland, guiding the family through storms, keeping the ranch alive, and teaching us, the audience, that healing is always possible. To lose her in such a sudden and devastating way feels almost impossible to accept, and yet that is what makes it so powerful. Heartland has never been a show about fairy tales. It has been a mirror of life, messy, unpredictable, beautiful, and cruel. Amy's story ending this way reminds us that even the strongest hearts can be silenced in a moment, and that grief never asks permission before it arrives. But in her death lies a reflection of her life. Amy was never about grand speeches or loud declarations. Her legacy was built quietly, through patience, through kindness, through the belief that every broken soul could be mended. That is what she leaves behind, not only for the characters on screen, but for the millions of fans who walked this journey with her. Every time we saw her calm a wild horse, every time she stood firm in the face of loss, she taught us something about resilience. She showed us that strength is not about never falling. It is about always finding the courage to rise again. The pain of her loss will not fade quickly. Jack, Lou, her daughter, and the rest of the Heartland family will carry scars that may never fully heal. But that too is the truth of life. We do not heal by erasing the people we love. We heal by carrying them forward, by letting their spirit shape who we become. Amy's presence will linger in every corner of the ranch, in every horse that runs free across those wide fields, in every family moment where love and grief intertwine. For the viewers, her death forces a painful question. What does Heartland mean without Amy? Can the story go on when the person who embodied its very soul is gone? Perhaps that is exactly what the writers wanted us to ask. Perhaps the real heart of Heartland has always been about finding hope in the ashes of despair, about discovering that love does not die when a person does. It lives on in memory, in legacy, in the way others rise to carry the torch. Amy Fleming's ending is not the story fans wanted, but it is a story that will never be forgotten. It will leave an ache in the hearts of those who loved her, but it will also leave a lesson that even in the deepest sorrow there is meaning. She lived with compassion, she loved with all her soul, and she left behind a legacy that no death can erase. And so, while season 19 may have closed her chapter, the spirit of Amy will remain the guiding star of Heartland. She will not be seen in the next season, but she will be felt in the silence of the ranch, in the bond between family, and in the strength of a little girl carrying her mother's light forward. Amy Fleming may be gone, but she is forever the heart of Heartland. The death of Amy Fleming will forever stand as one of the most shocking and heartbreaking moments in the history of Heartland. For nearly 2 decades, she was not just a character on screen, she was family to the audience. We grew up with her, we watched her heal broken horses and broken hearts, and we leaned on her strength during the hardest moments of the show. Now with her gone, the silence she leaves behind feels unbearable. But it also leaves us with something to think about. Heartland has always been more than a television series. It has been a reflection of real life, the beauty, the loss, the joy, and the pain. Amy's story was never about perfection. It was about endurance, compassion, and the power of love to mend even the deepest wounds. That's why her death hurts so much, because it feels like losing a piece of that hope, a piece of that light. Yet at the same time, it reminds us that even when someone is gone, their influence continues. Amy's lessons, her kindness, and her spirit will remain in every corner of the ranch and in the hearts of everyone who loved her. Now, the future of Heartland rests on the family she leaves behind, and perhaps on us as viewers. Do we carry her story forward by continuing to believe in the themes she stood for: healing, resilience, and love? Or do we see her death as the end of the show we once knew? These are questions that will stay with fans as they wait for the next season and wonder how the story can move on without her. But what about you? After watching 19 seasons of Amy Fleming's journey, after witnessing her rise from a heartbroken girl to the woman who became the very soul of Heartland, do you believe the show was right to end her story this way? Or do you think Amy deserved a different fate? One filled with peace instead of tragedy? Share your thoughts, your memories, and your feelings. Because while Amy's story may have ended on screen, it lives on in the conversations, the tears, and the love of the fans who will never forget her. Amy Fleming may be gone, but she is not forgotten. She is Heartland, and she always will be.